Excellent. Great. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Some of you are used to our Webinar Wednesday series, and this is a different platform than we are used to. So far, so good, but it's slightly different than we normally do it. So first, I want to welcome Colleen Bradley, who's presenting Building a Business Case for Planned Giving for your board today. I know this is a fantastic webinar. In an email that I sent out, you have access to Dropbox with an access to a PDF of this presentation. So please, by all means, help yourself to it, and you will enjoy having the resources that she's included here. You may submit questions anytime. On the right-hand side of your screen, spot for submitting your questions. So please submit them, but we will only hold a Q&A at the end of the webinar. So, but Colleen is also very welcoming of your questions. You're always welcome to email her afterwards. If she doesn't get to your question or come up with, welcome to getting your emails. This webinar is worth 1 CFRE credit, and it will be recorded. So you will, about an hour afterwards, you're going to get an email with a link to the recording. And I will let you take it from here, Colleen.
Well, thank you, everyone, for taking time out of your busy days to attend this webinar. And I know when I first started in planned giving, the whole intention of presenting to the board and building a case for planned giving to get a board approval was nerve-wracking, because it was like, what do they need to know? And so what I've done is I've included everything that I think that a board would need to know, including what objections they might have. And if you can figure out what those objections are beforehand, why that they would not approve it, timing, budget, resources, they don't understand what planned giving is, we need money now. If you can answer those questions in your presentation, you're going to have a great time presenting. Whenever I present to a board, and I've done a lot of presentations in the last year, going out to local societies at the Alzheimer's Society and giving these presentations, and every single board has different questions. So if you can know what your board wants to know, you'll be well ahead of the game. Some of the intentional outcomes that I want to have when I go and present to a board is to educate them about what planned giving is, how we're going to market and model it, how we're going to engage our donors, and how we're going to cultivate them, how we're going to invite them. How is that going to be presented? Because our boards are worried that we're going to be talking about death and dying, and that's why I have the slide up. Right, our first slide is, you're going to go out and you're going to talk about death and dying. Well, that's not exactly what planned giving is, as all of you know. We're not going out and talking about death and dying. We're going out and we're talking about how, through financial instruments, how you can help our organization. And what I really want to do when in a board presentation is to come out the other side and they go, wow, I didn't know that, and how fast can we get this program up? So we have to give them a lot of information, and we have to answer their objections. So what I've given you in this presentation, and I really want you to take and use it, is a lot of information. Now, each board is different. Some board presentations are 10 minutes. Some are an hour. This one is an hour presentation, and I've picked and chosen slides when I've gone to a presentation and then a board member asked me something and I didn't include it in that presentation, of course, right? That always happens. Now, what we want to do is make sure that all their answers, all their questions are answered. So, you know, as human beings, we have those questions in our minds. If we can answer those questions, then the board can make informed decisions. So what I'm going to do is start right now and go through my screen. There we go. Let's see. There we go. Does your board know what plan giving is? Have they heard about it before? Do they know how it works? Does your board understand the impact of a proactive program versus a passive program? And what we have to do is start at the beginning. So the following slides, the next 3 slides are, what is it? So we just want to tell them that it's an experience. It really is conversations that we have over time with our donors, that we engage them in a personal way, and we talk to them about their giving aspirations. That's exactly what plan giving is. Now there's the technical side of it, and we want to tell them what that is. So we want to tell them that we're asking for assets, not income. It requires legal documentation, advice from allied professionals. It's always made in a tax-effective manner. I've been doing this since 1989, and not one donor has ever said to me, I don't really care about the taxes. And it's always about the future. So we want to make sure that the board knows those things. And we want them to know that here's the how. We can do the how. The types of gifts are charitable will bequests. So they leave money in a will, and we want them to know that 95% of all planned gifts in Canada are made this way. Because what you want that board to do is be able to say, if anything, we're going to fund a program, give you money for a program that highlights bequests. Whether we do anything else, this is a way that we can get money in. And we want to tell them what the benefits are. It's a way to reduce estate taxes and may increase inheritances to our loved ones. Do people want to know about that? We want to tell them that there's gifts of life insurance, registered assets, the annuities and trusts. So we want to give them an overview of the different vehicles. You don't have to go into great detail. You just want to tell them the how. And then what we want to do, is be able to tell them what our goal is. What is the outcome? If we start a plan giving program, what are we doing? Well, I always say we're building up our savings account instead of relying on our checking account. Yes, we need money today, right now, to fund our programs and services and research, whatever your programs and services are. But we also need a savings account to be able to have a foundation so we know that in the future, if some amazing research grant comes along, we can fund that. If there's a program that we want to expand on, we can fund that. We want to tell them that there's an excellent ROI and that it's cost effective and we get larger gifts. And that as a fundraising department, we can develop long-term fundraising strategies so we can build relationships with people over their lifetime and even future generations who want to support our cause. We want to create donor loyalty and relationships, and we want to share our vision, and we want to tell them what we need. And plan giving is an absolutely perfect way to do that. So we want to give them what our goals and outcomes are. We want to tell them about the key concepts, that it's donor-centered. We're not talking 80% of the time about our organization. We're talking 80% of the time about what that donor needs. So it is not organization-centered, although 20% of the time we're going to say what our needs are, and we're going to be able to say what our future goals and how we would spend the money. But we're talking about that donor, and those board members need to know that it's a long-term building process. And so they have to know that it requires patience, active listening to our donors, and it requires team players. So I always say, I want the board to be involved in this. I want your help. I need staff, volunteers, our supporters, and professional advisors all to be on my team and be passionate about plan giving and what our goals are for the plan giving program and the goals of the organization that we're raising money for. They have to know that it is a program that's not a short-term vision. And I want them to know that there are long timelines. I don't want them to think that, oh, they've started a plan giving program, it's 6 months in, how come the money hasn't come in? So we want to tell them how long it takes to cultivate and invite someone. And now these are approximate timelines. I have a donor. I talked to her for an hour and a half this morning. I've been talking to her for 6 years. She finally got her will done. And she's a multimillionaire, but it took 6 years because she had so many fears and concerns about her family. So to let the board know that it's not an overnight success. We have to be able to spend the time and spend the resources that we have getting very personal with our donors. And I want them to know that every person we talk to, we're not going to be able to say, yes, that person has 100% left a gift to our organization in their will. As we all know as fundraisers, not everyone will tell us that. And that the first estate notification might not be right away. You might be talking to someone who is in their late 60s and they're not going to pass away in the next 5 to 10 years. That is called long-term relationship building, and I want them to know that. Because the more that your board understands the process of plan giving, the more they will be able to understand and commit to it and not come back in a year and say, well, this hasn't been a success. So I want them to be able to know all that, how a plan giving program actually works, and give them details on that. And the most important thing, I think, here's the wow factor, where I want them to come through this presentation and they go, wow, I didn't know that. Wow, we have to get doing plan giving right away. Because I want them to know what the current reality is in Canada. And one of the current realities about plan giving is the transfer of assets at death continues, whatever the state of the economy. In 2008, plan giving, we still got revenue in plan giving, although gifts of securities was at an all-time low in 2008. Our annual revenue was down in 2008, but people die every single day, and I say to our boards, when a person passes away and they've been a long-term donor for our organization, we've missed an opportunity. We don't want to miss those opportunities. And this I put in because one of the board members said to me, you have no idea about our little town here, Colleen. They're very, very poor. Very poor. They don't have a lot of revenue coming in. We have the industry here is at a all-time low, and I put this in to show that even the poorest 20% at getting an income, do they have assets? And one of the things that they said, yes, well, the houses up around here, they've shot up like enormously. 20 years ago, you could have bought a cute little place for $30,000. They're now $300,000, $400,000. I want them to understand that we're talking about assets. And so even though people may be on a fixed income and they look like they're the poorest 20%, they might have assets, so they can be cash poor and asset rich, because we want to answer that question in the back of their minds of who are going to be our donors, who are they going to be talking to, and we don't want our representatives of our organization going out and upsetting people. When I first started in 1989 at the Heart and Stroke Foundation, our tagline was Canada's #1 killer, and a board member said to me, we can't talk about death and dying. And I said, but our tagline says it's Canada's #1 killer. So why can't I go and tell them that they should have a will and that they could leave a gift to us in their will when they no longer need that cash for their own family? So it's being able to educate those board members and those potential plan giving donors in a way that makes them understand the process that we go through. I also wanted to let them know what the Canadian household net worth is by region. And so you can see that for those of you in Ontario, because I'm mainly doing these presentations in Ontario. So I want them to know what the household net worth is. And this was in RBC Financial Group in 2013. And I always say, and those prices have gone up. So you want to be able to tell them that there are assets out there, people with assets out there that could be our best supporters, and we haven't asked. I also want them to know that the intergenerational transfer of assets is at an all-time high. So this was in 2010, just 2 years after the crash, and we know now that it's well over $1 trillion. But I want them to look at these numbers and say, "Oh my gosh, that's a lot of money that we could be capitalizing on," but we're not, because we don't have a proactive program. And I want to tell them, and as you would too, is that this is the largest wealth transfer in human history, and we want a part of it. And I want them to know that the baby boomer generation, which I'm in, we're the generation that needs the information to be able to make those informed decisions. We go from our heart, but we also go from our head, and we want to let them know that the aging population is dealing with estate planning in record numbers, and we want to be able to capitalize on that. That those of us who are over age 65, in 15 years, will be 80. And so what are you going to do in the next 15 years? Are you going to wait and not have a piece of the pie? Are you going to do something and get into action right now? I also want them to know that the statistics about Canadians' giving history, and that about 8 to 15%, depending on your province, that Canadians give an estate gift. Can you imagine if we were just even that 8%, and 8% of our database gave to us and was just the low end of Canadians giving? And if they only gave 5% of a conservative Ontario estate, and you saw it was bigger, that we could get in $20,000 in an estate gift. I want them to look at those numbers, and I want you to be able to be comfortable giving those numbers and saying, this is what we could be as an organization generating in revenue. On the other hand, we have to let them know that, guess what? There's the largest transfer of wealth from one generation to another that's going to take place, but over 50% of us don't have a will, and 29% said they didn't know how to get started. So if 50% of us don't have a will, I think it's incumbent upon us, if we want to be able to reap the rewards of having will bequests, is that to educate Canadians about the importance of doing their will. And this month is May Leave a Legacy Month, and November is Make a Will Month, and as charitable organizations, we should be capitalizing on those 2 months to let our donors know the benefits of leaving a legacy to a charitable organization and the benefits of doing their will, and that it's incumbent upon us to be able to educate them so that they do leave us something in their will. And if we're not doing it, some other charitable organization is doing it for us. We also have to let them know what's the benefits to the donor and their family of a will bequest. So I put these slides in so they just know that we're talking to our donors in a way that's educating our donors in a way that helps their family, but also to help us, because we need the revenue. And to be able to say how easy it is to do a will bequest and how important it is to do a will bequest. So the next slides just give an overview of the benefits. And I want those board members to understand the benefits. And board members have come up to me after presentations and said, I didn't know that. I personally don't have a will, and you've informed me that I should have a will, and that there are benefits of leaving a bequest to my favorite charity, which is I'm a board member on. It's fascinating to know that board members do not understand that there are different ways to fundraise. There's a lot of governance boards, and if you're fortunate enough to have a fund development committee, it's educating those board members in a way that empowers them personally and empowers other board members, because once they've done their will and included a planned gift, they will be your champion. So we want them to know what the benefits are to the donors and their families. And that, they can get some tax relief. Not only are they protecting their family, not only are you protecting your assets, you can get tax relief. You can have a roadmap once you're no longer here on Earth. You're able to help others when you're able to, and being able to put a simple clause in your will is one of the best things to do for a charity, and I've been doing that my whole career since 1989, and before that I was a will and estate planner at Royal Trust. I'm passionate about people not only leaving bequests in their wills, but getting their wills and powers of attorney done. So when we talk to board members, we want to make sure that they know what the benefits are. And I also want them to know what the consequences are. So here's an example of in Ontario. Did you know that without a will, the government can become involved? Now, if the Office of the Public Trustee becomes your personal representative, here are the consequences. So when you read this off to board members, they immediately say, what? The government could be involved if no one comes and becomes my agent as an agent for the executor? That's exactly right. And so I just want them to know, as board members who can go out and tell the story, that not only are there benefits, but there's consequences of not having our will done. And this has got nothing to do with leaving a bequest. This is just, if you don't have your will done, this is what could happen. And the other big thing is that if you don't have a will and you become mentally incapable and you have capacity issues, you have early onset dementia, you have a stroke, you can't do your will, nor can you do your powers of attorney. And so it's time consuming and stressful. So I want them to know that. As board members, I want them to have the full picture of what is happening in our donors' lives, in their lives, before they make a decision to fund a planned giving program. And I always want them to know that there's tax benefits. There's tax benefits of actually leaving a gift in their will or through other vehicles of planned giving. And so I want them to know in a way that is like, okay, yeah, and we all know that there's tax consequences, but I want them to understand what a will bequest can actually do for that donor. So I have this slide and I go through it for them and have them understand that even when someone has income in the year of death of $40,000 and they give a $50,000 gift because they had a $400,000 or $500,000 house, and the proceeds of that very small amount, 10%, went to a planned gift, what the tax situation is. Because we can talk about it, but if you don't put a slide up that actually indicates how that works, they won't really get it. I've had many board members and many donors say, "How I don't understand how that works. Can you give me a chart? Can you show me how that works?" And so this is a very good slide, and you can use this even with your donors to give an example. And what they'll want to know what are the benefits to us? Why should we support a planned giving program that's going to cost us time, money, and resources? Well, the gifts can be larger. We know that, right? And they can be 10 times larger than lifetime gifts. And I always tell them a story. And if you have a story, even if it's not about your organization, and you've heard it through the grapevine, you can use this story. When I was a consultant at the Ontario March of Dimes, we did a newsletter, and it was a plan giving newsletter. And one of the things that we did, we said, you know what, we should send this newsletter to our lapsed donors, because it's just another way that we could educate our donors who were once loyal to us, but something's happened to them. We don't understand why they're not giving anymore, but we have a whole pool here. Why don't we send this newsletter, the plan giving newsletter, to our lapsed donors? And we did. And we sent to one woman who was another segment that I did was Miss and lapsed. So she had given $10 during her lifetime, $10. When we got her will in, I noticed that I was reading through the will. It wasn't in the will, but she had a codicil. And that codicil was made 2 months after that mailing of that newsletter, and she left us $350,000. Now, this woman gave us $10 during her lifetime. We never cultivated her. I sent her a newsletter. 2 months later, she changed her will. She left $1 million to sleeping children around the world. $1 million. She was a millionaire. I didn't know that, but that one plan giving newsletter gave us $350,000, and we don't always know where that gift is going to come from. So in plan giving, we want to layer those messages, and in the marketing section, I'll show you that. And I want them to know it's a cost-effective way to fundraise, that once the program's up and running, it doesn't cost very much, because we're getting many times the lifetime giving in gifts. And that the benefit to us is that we actually get to talk to our donors and to be able to see what they want and who they are and how they want to support us. And we're going to be having conversations, because one of the things that I say to the board, we're asking them to include us in their will like family and friends, and we don't even know them. So once we have a relationship with them, we should treat them like family and friends. We want to know who they are. We want to know why they support us. We want to know what they think of us. And does it take time? Absolutely, it takes time. But when you can be cultivating 10 times larger than their lifetime giving gifts, it's worth it. I also want the board to know that it's not just about marketing. It's not just about getting a nice brochure out and having those relationships and building those relationships that take time. We have to build a foundation. We have to have our case for support that is in 5 years from now, what are we going to be doing? In 10 years, what are our goals? We want to have a budget, and I'll talk about that in a few minutes. We want to have a marketing plan. We want to have our policies in place. We want to make sure we have a database and figure out who we're going to be talking to. We want to have lovely materials so that they're materials that people want to open and read. And we want to train staff and volunteers, because at our forward-facing people, our receptionists, our volunteers who are here every day stuffing our envelopes, we want them to know what plan giving is. We want to be able to train people, so when someone says, oh, Colleen, I wish I could do more, but I'm on a fixed income, what does that person say in response to that? We want to have tools that will allow our supporters to self-identify. We want to be able to measure and evaluate. We want to be able to say, did that work? No, that didn't work. Well, how can we tweak that? And that we want to be able to gather a pool of expectancies. An expectancy, and I explained to the board what that means, is that someone has included us in their will and we expect to get something at a later date. An intention is, I've intended to put you in my will, but I haven't yet, and our prospects. I want them to understand that we have a process in plan giving. We don't just go out there and throw spaghetti against the wall and hope some of it sticks. We want to be able to inform our potential supporters so that they understand. We want to involve them. We want to have conversations. We want to have it organic. We want to be able to understand who that person is and what their concerns are. And we want to be able to invite them to join us, help us in our cause in a very significant way. And so when we ask, we're looking for a commitment. That's what it is. And we want to be able to say thank you, and we want to be able to steward. And we want them to know that that's a cycle and that it's not just a one-off conversation that we're going to have with someone and then we don't talk to them ever again and then they feel like they've been sold something. So I always say to the board is that I want to educate people, I want to engage them, and I want to inspire them into action, because as human beings, we have this thing called inertia, especially around doing our will, since 50% of us don't do that. What I want them to be able to understand, and every board will be different. You might not go into the marketing on your first presentation, but a lot of the boards want to know, if you're talking about death and dying, what are you going to be doing? What are you going to be saying? So I tell them that our marketing is going to be designed to make something happen. Right? It's going to be able to change opinions and beliefs. So I've had donors who said, if I write my will, I'm going to die tomorrow. And that was a firm belief that once he signed that piece of paper, he was signing his death sentence. He firmly believed that. So there was a lot of conversations to get over that. We want to be able to educate people to eliminate their doubts and fears. This is about our own mortality. We want to engage people to build trust so that they actually know that when we take their hard-earned assets, we're going to be doing a good job and putting that money to good use. And I want to inspire. I want to inspire our donors and touch their hearts. I want to ignite them into action, and I want to answer, why should I give to X, Y, and Z, and what's the impact going to be? And if you let your board know that this is how deep you're going to go, they understand that it's not, and no disrespect to special events or direct mail, but it's a deeper conversation that we're going to be talking at a level that is not normal. It is a deep conversation and it is a personal conversation. I want to be able to let the board know that when we talk to people, are our donors informed, right? Like, are we doing a good enough job that those donors will be informed enough to act? Do they know the consequences of not having a will? Are they aware that a legacy costs almost nothing? Do they know that there's significant tax benefits on these types of gifts? And are they aware that what a planned gift will do to make a difference at our organization? Do they know that? And in my experience, most donors don't know that at all. And what I want to do with a board is, because those board members are also potential donors, I want them to know those 4 or 5 things. I want them to understand it. And I want them to understand what we want our donors to do. What do we want them to do? Do we want them to ask for estate planning information? Are our materials going to be only tell us if you've already made a planned gift? Who do we want to communicate with? I had a CEO and board president say, we don't want to have planned giving. And as a consultant, I was there to help them with their planned giving program. We don't want to. It's about death and dying. Yes, it is. It is about death and dying, but it's also about helping a donor understand their giving motivations, giving aspirations, doing good in the world, and to make a difference in the world. And that's not a death and dying conversation, and we want the board to understand that, because so many board members have said to me, well, plan giving is complicated. Oh, you're talking about taxes. Oh, you can only make one plan gift. They have so many preconceived ideas that we want to make sure that when we're making a presentation that we almost over-inform our board so they don't have any doubts in their mind. So when they want to know who we're going to communicate with, let them know. We will segment. We're not going to throw spaghetti against the wall. We're going to figure out who are our best prospects, who are the best people to talk to. And we're going to determine how we communicate so we get the biggest return on investment in time and money. We're not just going to go out and try, and that word try, to figure out who we're going to talk to. We're going to figure out it in a logical way, and we're going to implement, measure, and adjust. We're not just going to go for a year and say, oh yeah, this is what we did. Oh, we had no results. We're going to figure out how to best talk to the best people in the best way. And most of you have probably seen this pyramid. And what I want them to understand, though, for a board is to be able to say, we want to be able to take them from, I would like some plan giving information and with my hand up, to that they want to invest in our organization. They want to give their hard-earned money, and that there's a process. And you probably have all seen the donor relations wheel. I give them that to let them know that it's on that donor's timeline. It's their interests and their capabilities. And it's all about having those exploratory conversations. This is one of my favorite slides that I give to in my presentations. I want them to know every single organization, every single charity that's out there, there's a compelling threat, or we would not be fundraising to close that gap. We want to know what the preferred future is. Where are we planning to go? How are we going to get there, and how can you help us? This is how you start your case for support. And I always say, failure to communicate our case is failure in revenue. And plan giving is the perfect vehicle to be able to say, here's where we want to be in 5 years. Will you help us get there? We need you. Because if we do not ask, we will not receive. We have to be able to take that compelling threat and make it into a future where the future is better than it is right now. And I have a discussion about this. Usually, if you can take about 2 minutes and have a discussion with your board of what our preferred future is, we all know what it is through our organizations, but have them articulate how are we going to get there if we don't have the funds that plan giving will generate for us. So it comes down to knowledge, understanding, belief, and action. That's what I want them to understand, that's what plan giving is all about. It's giving people knowledge, having them understand, change their beliefs in something, and to believe in our organization and to get them into action. I also, when they want to know about marketing, who are we talking to? So as gift planners, you know our target audience, but those board members don't. So I want to give them an overview of our 2 prime target audiences, which are our best prospects and supporters, and our key influencers, because that is a 2-pronged marketing approach, and I want them to know that I need enough money to be able to target my audience of my supporters, but I also need my key influencers, and I have to go out and talk to them also in a way that is informative and that they understand what we are doing. Being able to create awareness within our key influencers communities only is generates a ripple effect because you've got champions out there talking about your organization. And I know when I was at Royal Trust in the 80s, there was very few and far between charities that came and just chatted with me because I was a will and estate planner. And I bet you now, today, it's a much different story. And what you want to be able to do is have your board, if there's a champion on the board who are key influencers, that they can help you. I was doing a presentation at a board in Waterloo, Wellington, and there was a lawyer on the board. And when I gave this presentation, he said, "Oh, I know tons of lawyers and bankers. I can do a letter just saying, how important it is and what we do and why it's important to support us." And he did. It's being able to also inspire those board members into action while you're making this presentation, and when they can see that they can contribute. And they want to know who we're talking to, so I give them a little segment of who are our best prospects, because it also gets them educated on who we need to be talking to. Because what we would like to have happen, what I'd like to have happen as an intentional outcome, is to have a board champion. So I want them to know who these people are and why they make bequests and the statistics here, letting them think about the people that they know. It's not to be able to go and talk about plan giving to them, but just to be able to be a resource for us and to be able to give them that background. This is what I'm doing on a daily basis. These are the people I'm talking to. Do you understand why I'm talking to the people in this age range? Do you understand that men make larger bequests, on an average of 5 times larger, but women give smaller bequests but to give to more charities? Do you know that? It's an educational process for them. And to be able to say to those board members, I'm not going to be calling people on our database. I'm not going to be sending unsolicited letters. I want people on our database. I want people to self-identify. The goal of plan giving is to have people who want to do this put up their hand and say, could you give me more information? And here's some of the ways that those people will feel. They wanted to create a legacy. They have social responsibility. This is all about feeling. And when we know as gift planners, people give with their hearts, but they also give with their heads. And so I want to make sure that both of those are combined. And I tell that to the board, that it's a feeling, an emotion that comes up first, but it's also logical, practical, and the best thing for their family. And we have to make sure that that's what we're doing for our supporters, making sure that they have all their questions and concerns addressed. And when we're talking about plan giving, I want the board to know that it's all about the donor's dreams and aspirations. I want them to know that this is a cycle. So it's going right back to that first part of the presentation, that it's personal and unique. Not every single person is going to come and say, yes, I want to do a plan gift. Not every single person is going to be motivated. But it's a conversation so we understand what their motivations are. It's a conversation so we get to know them. We know their timelines. We know their circumstances. We know what they want, and we're helping them achieve their personal objectives. And so it's not a 5-minute conversation. And I want them to understand how personal this is, because many board members have said, "Oh, it's just make contact with a lawyer and educate that one lawyer in that community, and you'll get tons of plan gifts." Well, it's more difficult than that. It's not more complicated, but it's being able to build trust and rapport and to be able to get personal with donors on their giving aspirations, their family history, and I want them to understand that. The other thing that I really want them to understand is that there are certain philanthropic clues, and we want to, in plan giving, as we address those donors' concerns. And here are all the concerns that donors will have, and how are we going to address those? When a donor talks about their concerns, that's invoking trust. They're actually bearing themselves to us. And what we want to be able to do as excellent gift planners, to be able to let them know that we have the answer to their concerns. And it is a way that we can build rapport, build trust, and build our future revenue streams. And so when boards see that these are all the concerns that people have, it's not, oh, you're just going to go out and talk about a gift vehicle of life insurance and an annuity or a will bequest and give them will bequest language. Sometimes that happens, and it's very simple and easy because they've already talked to their financial advisors, but we're having in-depth conversations, and I want them to know this. And we want to define the donor's dream. It's what does that donor want to do? I want them to understand that what we're trying to do is have a donor gain clarity. And it could be a team approach or not. It might be very intimidating for Alice to have 3 people, the CEO, a board member, and myself come and talk to her about her will bequest. But it might be okay if just the CEO and I go, or just I go. So how are we going to generate a team on this? Because I don't want to be working in isolation. And if you can build up your team and build up the board to be able to be your greatest champions and your greatest supporters, you have then got the icing on the cake, because they will help you. They want to help you. They want you to be successful. And I want them to know that it is a process and not a sale. It's not a transaction. This is a relationship building. And the more I can drive that home, the more that the board understands the flow of plan giving. So when they want to know marketing, I tell them that using only one marketing tool, because they'll say something like, well, I know XYZ organization uses receipt responder cards, and I know they're doing really well with that. What I always want them to know is that a plan giving is not a one-off campaign, and that there's many, many different ways to market. And I would go quickly through this section, because what I want you to do is pick and choose what you would want to give to your board as information. But I want them to know that we want to reach more potential donors with the PG message, and that we want to test things that don't cost a lot, right? So what we want to do is, I always say to them, we're going to have an internal launch. We're going to have a heads up for the staff, because if the staff doesn't know what's going on in plan giving and we just do it in isolation, we're going to lose a lot of potential leads. And that I want to give them an internal lunch and learn for staff and volunteers. So it's just estate planning. And that, wouldn't it be great if we had a referral process? If somebody phoned up the receptionist and asked for something at our organization, and they said, I would love to do more, but that they say, you know, would you like to have someone speak to you, because I know you're on a fixed income, but you could help us in a way that would not take anything from your income today. Would you like to know more? But if you have that receptionist trained to be able to do that, can you imagine how our customer service would be elevated? And the board wants to know that we're the best organization that we can possibly be, and we're a fundraising organization, and we're thinking every single possibility of how to get funds to help the people that are animals or whatever we're supporting get that money in the door. So the next couple of slides I'm just going to go over. I'm just going to quickly go over because I give them marketing tools and let them understand that these are the ways that we are going to reach out to our donor base, because a lot of board members are, as I mentioned before, are concerned that we're going to be very pushy about this. And as gift planners, we all know we're not, but we want to alleviate that fear in those board members' minds. So I give them a overview of all the different marketing and that there's no cost to it. So you can see low cost to no cost. And if I know the board really well and I know what they want to focus on, of course I wouldn't have all these different tactics in. I would concentrate on 3 to 5 things. But I wanted to give you the full meal deal so you can put this into your presentations and you can say, here are the 5 things that we're going to be doing, and they're low cost or medium cost. And be able to say, here are the things that we're going to do, and we're going to implement them, and it's going to cost X amount of dollars. So right at the end of this slide right here where it says the medium cost, in here I would have a budget. So I would have, okay, we're going to do a survey because we don't know what our database, we don't know those people, and we're going to do a newsletter, and we're going to do receipt responder cards. And how much is that going to cost us? What the board always wants to know is how much is this going to cost? And if you have a plan already, a simplified marketing plan of 3 to 5 tactics you want to use in phase 1 or year 1, and you want to test those, make sure that you have that budget well in hand and that you don't have to go back and ask for more money for the next year. Make sure that you have enough money to do 2 newsletters in that year, to a segmented database, have all that done previously before you present. And to be able to tell them that this is how much it's going to cost in the first year. I'm not sure how much it's going to cost in the second year because we're going to tweak these tactics and we're going to see how these work. We're going to evaluate them and we're going to report back to you quarterly or semi-annually, and we're going to let you know how things are going. One of the key things that I tell them is that we have to have in our budget is membership to the CAGP so we can learn from each other, and that if at all possible, we want to be able to go to the conference so we can gather really high level learnings from our colleagues and implement those in the next year. So I always include the CAGP membership for one of the staff members and a conference. And I mentioned this, is determine what level of marketing you want to engage in and cost out your budget, and so the board understands exactly, because their fiduciary responsibility is to make sure that we're, as an organization, that we're fiscally responsible. So they'll want to know how much you're going to spend, and don't let them rope you into how much revenue you're going to bring in, because I always say to them, people have to pass away. And if you can see in the first few slides, remember what I said, that people will be passing away. We'll get the notification, and when that notification comes in, we still won't be receiving the money quickly. So that's one of the things that we want to make very clear. I also want them to know that the allied professionals are extremely important to us as gift planners, and I want them to understand that anybody that they know that would be interested in helping us do these volunteer recruitment of writing estate planning articles, speaking at in-house financial planning seminars, being members on our volunteer committees, we would like to know about them. And then I finally end up with, here are our keys for success. We have to have these things to be able to have a robust and proactive plan giving program. And the willingness to invest in the long-term nature of a relationship building program. I want to look at them at every single person and say, I want your investment. I want you to believe that this is the way of the future, that in the next 15 years we could have a foundation for our fundraising program that would be the basis and bring in the most percentage that we can grow this so that plan giving is actually our ongoing revenue stream, because we've been cultivating and we've been educating. And when you say this, look at every single person. Do it really, really slowly on that last line. And that I want them to know that it's not a short-term vision, it's a long-term vision, and that they have to be able to have an organizational mind shift, especially if you haven't had a plan giving program. You want them to know that this will increase our average gift size. This will increase our revenue. This will increase our personal involvement with supporters. And as a charity where all we really give back to a person who is a donor is a tax receipt, can you know, as gift planners, any of you who have been doing this for many years, you have friends who are your donors. I've gone to so many funerals in the last 28 years. It's not even funny. And it's being able to understand that we are actually wanting to be connected and intimate with our donors who are giving us so much money, and to be able to know them on a level that is not a transaction. And so to finalize it is that I need buy-in from our staff, I need buy-in from our board, volunteers. I've got your budget, I've got resources for you. I'm going to implement all the no-cost tactics and some of the low-cost tactics. I'm going to measure our results, and I'm going to review our ROI, where we get the best results and why, and I'm going to adjust accordingly. And I'm going to report back to you and let you know how successful it is, and I want you on my team. And then I let them know that results come over time, not overnight. Please don't expect that when I come to the next board meeting, which might be in 3 months or 6 months or a year from now, that we've raised millions and millions of dollars if we don't have a proactive plan giving program. You might, like, anything is possible, but don't give them that false expectation. And to let them know in reality that this is a program that requires constant tweaking, constant understanding of our donors and that human behavior, and that interaction of understanding where our donors are coming from, to be able to build relationships that are so intense and beautiful that it's a pleasure to be able to have those conversations, and that we're getting to be able to understand the motivations and aspirations of our best supporters. And as a fundraiser, there's nothing better than that for me. And one of the things before I go into Q&A, this is a small charity that I worked with in 2010, and you can use this if you don't have a charity in your local area to use as a case study. They had active supporters of only 10,000. They implemented all the low cost and no cost over a period of 2 years. They got 1% of their supporters were inspired to let them know. They did a really good program called the Pioneers, and their average bequest was $10,000. So they had 100 people who had put up their hand at an average of $10,000. So board was thrilled because we had an expectancy pool in a very short period of time of $1 million. But that board had already called donors, thanked donors for their even small gifts. So can you imagine if they all were educated about the benefits of making a planned gift, and we just did the low end of 8%? I said to them, you could have the potential here of $8 million if we go from low cost and no cost to medium cost. So if you have any charities in your geographical catchment that is doing amazing planned giving, use that as a case study to be able to say, and this is what XYZ charity is doing, and we can do the exact same thing. And I always remind them that no matter what we're doing right now, having this conversation, some of our best donors have passed away today. Some of our best donors, because that doesn't take a holiday, and that right now we are missing out because we haven't got a proactive plan giving program. And people come up, board members come up and say, we have to get this done. We have to be fundraising smarter and wiser. And to be able to get on that board presentation, if you can get the most time that you can possibly get, take that time. Don't be intimidated that you've got 45 minutes or an hour. Just get out there and let them know how plan giving can impact the revenue stream for now and in the future. So any questions? I've really gone through that really quickly. I wanted to give you as much information that you could pick apart and make your own, and as I said, to be able to present to your boards. You might just do the current reality. You might just do what your marketing plans are, but to be able to let them know how important plan giving is. Any questions?
We do actually have a few questions. I'm aware that we're a little over time, but if people can stick around or they can still listen to the recording afterwards, let's go through. I have 3 questions that I can put out to you.
Yep.
The first that came through is, are there many opportunities for organizations that are independent of specific organizations' causes? Does that make sense? Are there many opportunities or organizations that are independent of specific organizations and causes?
Okay, I'm not sure what that means. Any opportunities to? I'm not clear. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Another one.
Yep.
What's the standard length of time that a board member stays on a board?
Oh, and it's different. It's different on every board that I've presented to, because they can do their own terms. So as I mentioned earlier, this year I've done 30 presentations to 30 different boards, and all the terms were different. So one of the things that I suggest is after your AGM, is try to get on the plan giving, presentation right after your AGM, because new board members have signed on, and you'll be able to educate them, because as we mentioned, you try to do this at least once a year, because new board members will be coming on and off, and so it's educating. So every board, to recap, every board has different terms of references for time on. It could be 4 years, it could be 2 years. And so what you have to do is talk to your CEO and make sure that you get on when there's new members, for sure.
Thank you. Here's another one. As with many charities, I do planned giving as one part of my position.
Mm-hmm.
How much do you think realistically is required to start a real plan giving program from basically scratch?
Yep. So very good question. When I first started working at the Heart and Stroke Foundation, they didn't have a proactive plan giving program. They had a reactive plan giving program, and money was coming in. So market it, to be able to get your marketing plan and to get the word out, I would say it would be at least 25% of your time. Because remember, when you're starting from scratch, first of all, you have to figure out what your marketing plan, figure out your budget, and then implement. You're not going to be inundated with plan giving inquiries right away. You're just not. You got to tell them again, and tell them again until it sinks in, because we're so confronted with our own mortality. So I would say the very first year, 25% of your time, but that upfront time will be getting your marketing plan implemented and then waiting.
Okay, wonderful. I have a couple more if you
Yep,
have.
I do.
And then if we don't get to them, they can still email you, right?
Absolutely.
So how do you measure success? If you count expectancies, how do you count them? Do you count activity? I am interested in benchmarks that are ambitious but realistic.
Perfect. So again, I count activities first, especially if you're in a new program. So every single thing that you did. So if I put, I had 100 receipts go out this month and 100 receipt responder cards went in, I count 100 that I sent out 100. I might have only got one back, but I count that 100 and then what the result is. Did I get an inquiry from our website page, but I count the website page as an activity that I did, and I got an inquiry from the website page. I did a newsletter. I sent it out to 1,000 people. The newsletter is the activity, the 1,000 is the number, and then I got 2 inquiries. So you count all that. And then when you get, you've had a telephone call, so now I've got all those inquiries. Let's say I get 20 in a month. Let's be generous, and we just started the program, we got 20 people. Count all those telephone calls as an activity, and then those conversations. So it's just a prospect conversation because they didn't tell you I've included you in my will. That's a prospect conversation, a cultivation conversation. But I got an intention. Well, Colleen, I'm intending to go to my lawyer next week, and I need that clause. So that's an intention. Then I follow up on that 2 weeks later and see, did they actually go to the lawyer, and did they put that will bequest clause in their will? Yes, they did. That's an expectancy. Now, when we look at expectancies, you add up all your expectancies, and then you take your average bequest over the entire year, or you can do 5 years if you've got a 5-year grid, and figure out what that expectancy might be worth, and it's just projected. So you evaluate all your activities, all your results, and all your intentions, all your expectancies, and you project that out. And I have a benchmark form if anybody wants it. It's just a form.
Okay. And just one last question, and we'll have to tie it up. Do you have any topic suggestions for planned giving newsletters?
Oh yes. So one of the biggest questions that I have from donors is, why should I do my will? So I've done a series. So if you can think, if you do 2 newsletters a year, and say you write 4 articles, so you have a series for 2 years, right? So why is it important to have a will? What the consequences of not having a will is one. How to choose an executor, because people don't understand choosing an executor and all the ramifications of choosing an executor. And then it's, who do you want to give your assets to? How to determine your net worth, for example. People have always asked me that. So there's a whole series that person, if they want to email me, I have a whole list of topics. And then just, what are the benefits of making a planned gift? Why should I leave you in my will? What are all the benefits to me? Because every donor, I don't care how old or how young they are, they're always thinking about their family and themselves. Yes, they're thinking about our charities, but they're also thinking, how does this help my family? How does this help me? And to be able to articulate those things in a newsletter, you're answering their questions and overcoming their objections in a newsletter. And it helps them put their hand up to ask for more information.
That is fantastic, and there are a couple more questions, and I'll just have to ask people to contact you directly because we really are out of time. So I'll just very quickly just say that within about an hour, anybody listening to the live recording today will get an email with a link to a survey about today's webinar. And we really would love it if you could take a quick moment to fill this out, as it does give us valuable feedback that helps us, and Colleen really appreciates it as well. Quick couple of things. Our upcoming dates for the Strategic Gift Planning Bootcamp for Major Gift Professionals is taking place in London, September 17th to 20th. There's still space, so please check our website or give me a call if you have questions about it. And our next webinar will be on May 31st with Amanda Salvatore and Dwayne Osborne presenting Non-Real Property Valuation, What You Need to Know. You can find more details about these and other events on our website. And thank you so much, Colleen, for taking the time to share so much information with us today. I have a feeling there are a lot of people sitting at their desks with all kinds of questions.
Thank you so much, everyone. I really appreciate your commitment to gift planning, and together we grow stronger.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much. Have a great week, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.